Hey everyone, welcome to today's Program Yourself Thin podcast where we're talking about it's not a weight problem, it's a mindset problem. And this is 100% of the time, because even if there is a physical issue that's contributing to your weight gain, your mindset's always at play, always there. And no matter what situation you're in, you can always make it better when you focus on your mindset and improving it. Okay. Now, I want to just clarify. I'm saying this with compassion. So the first thing is, don't get upset if you feel like you've got a physical issue. So no, I got insulin resistant, or I'm this, I got Hashimoto's, whatever thing you may think. Please understand. Again, I'm acknowledging that. I appreciate there are physical realities too, but there are also mindset realities. And I think these are almost always overlooked when it comes to weight loss. People treat mindset as if it's just a secondary thing to focus on, when in reality, it's the primary thing that's dictating your results, because your mindset is the primary thing that's dictating your behaviors. And you need to understand that your weight is a reflection of your habitual behaviors, your habitual eating, your habitual calorie consumption is reflected in your weight, and your behaviors are controlled by your mindset. And you know this. And mindset's different than, I like to make the difference, right? The distinction that there's conscious knowledge of what you should do. And then there's kind of your mindset, which I think of more as your subconscious mind. Okay. So the big distinction when it comes to focusing on your mindset is that knowledge is not enough. You've got enough knowledge right now to succeed. The big problem is you don't know how to get yourself to do it consistently. And to prove that point, if you were a cyborg robot and you could just type in what you were going to eat all day and then you just did it because you were a cyborg, if you had that ability, would you struggle to lose weight? Well, no, because you already know enough about what you should and shouldn't eat, what you should do in order to get closer to your goal weight. So the issue isn't one of knowledge in terms of what you need to do. And that's what the diet trap is. It keeps telling you that, well, this time here, you're going to change this macronutrient, or now you're going to do this tactic, or now you're going to do this little thing. And it never addresses that core issue of your mindset. How are you thinking about things? How are you talking to yourself? How do you feel consistently throughout the day? How do you manage stress and emotions? This is all mindset stuff. And if you don't know how to do these things effectively without food, weight loss is always going to be a struggle, because if you're in the wrong mindset, you could have all the knowledge in the world and you're not going to get the results you want. And that's probably where you find yourself. You have probably, if you're listening to this right now, you've probably been trying to lose weight for decades. And you have probably read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts, tried a lot of things. So it's not a lack of effort. It's a lack of the proper strategy to create the change. And I believe the proper strategy starts by focusing more on your mindset than you have been. And I can say that as a blanket statement, which I rarely do, because this is one of the things I've noticed in my career. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've done over 6,000 private weight loss sessions. Every single time, the person needs to focus on their mindset. I've never seen an example of someone changing their weight long-term who did not shift their mindset. I've never seen it. So instead of treating it as, well, I don't have time to work on my mindset, or that's not the big thing. I know what to do. I just got to get myself to do it. If you're one of those people who says something like that, I know what I need to do. I just need to get myself to do it. I urge you to take a step back and reflect on the part that your mindset plays in this whole process. Do you know what to do? I know you have a sense of what to eat, but do you know how to get yourself motivated? Do you know how to talk to yourself so that you feel supported and encouraged when you make mistakes? Do you know how to manage your emotions genuinely without needing food? Do you know how to manage your energy levels and your behaviors and your habits? And the answer is most likely no. And so what you start to realize is that you've got a lot of ideas and plans of what you should do, but you really have a very limited ability to get yourself to follow through and do those things. And that's the problem that keeps showing up, regardless of which plan you try. And if you look over your weight loss career, that's what you're probably going to notice, is that each thing you try has the same arc to it. It starts off where you're doing everything perfect, and then it fades out, and now you go back to what you always do. You do what you always do until you get upset again about your weight, do something drastic, do it perfectly for a little while, it fades away, you go back to what you always do. You keep going back to what you always do because you never, ever change your mindset. And until you change your mindset, weight loss is always going to feel like a struggle. It's always going to feel impossible. But when you change your mindset, when you focus on your mindset and begin to strategically, systematically, consistently begin to change it, everything is different because your mindset is impacting everything. How you approach things, the beliefs you have, the feelings you have, the motivation you have, all of this. So I hope you start focusing on your mindset. And if you want to go deeper into your mindset, please click the link in my bio or go to programyourselfthin.com and go get the free hypnosis session. I will write it in here for my Facebook, YouTube people. But if you're on TikTok, you can go right to the top left there, click the picture of me, and go get your free hypnosis session. It will be your first step in probably your whole life where you've done something directly aimed at your mindset. And so I hope that this helps you out. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I am here every day, Monday through Friday, to help you all get control of your weight, live at your goal weight, and stay there forever. And I'm here every day for free, just helping you all out, answering your questions. What's up, P? How's it going? P says, how do I stay consistent? Great question. That's a very good question. Now, what most people are going to do when they ask that question, right? How do I get more consistent? How do I stick with it? What they're thinking is whatever plan it is that they want to do, whether it's keto, Weight Watchers, intermittent fat, it doesn't matter. Whatever your plan is, everyone's got kind of a unique way to approach it. But whatever your plan is, when people ask that question, how do I stick to that plan? Subconsciously, what you're doing is you're assuming that the plan has to be this hard. So this represents how difficult it is. So let's just say this is you living your normal life. We'll kind of put this right in the middle. And your plan that you want to stick to takes about this much more effort, which is a lot more effort. All right. So a lot of times when people ask the question, how do I stick to my plan? What they're really saying is, how do I stick to my extremely difficult plan long term? How can I keep following a really difficult, strict, stressful, depriving, boring plan long term? And when you ask it this way, it starts to clarify and reveal the real problem and the real solution. The real solution is not that you're going to somehow tap into some crazy amount of motivation where you're able to stay way up here for the rest of your life. So when it says, how do I stick to a program, Jim? What you're wanting me to say is there's some magical mindset hack where I can get your motivation way up here so that you just stay way doing this crazy shit forever. I don't see that as possible for most people. Okay. So what I would rather do is, yes, I absolutely want to get my motivation up. And there's ways to do that. As a matter of fact, in Program Yourself Thin, we follow the goal weight pyramid. Mindset's the bottom most important layer. And the very first thing we do in mindset is motivation. So you learn how to actually motivate yourself, which is interesting in itself because most likely you've been at this for decades and you have no idea how to really, truly motivate yourself. But that's another story. So when we have this situation where you say, well, how do I stick to my plan? What you're really saying is, how do I stick to my really difficult, hard to stick to plan? So what I want to do is I want to say, okay, let's do the motivation stuff and we'll get you about halfway up there. But the other half of it is, let's make the plan easier. That's how you stick to the plan. You do two things. You learn how to boost your motivation, clean up your mindset, and you come up with an easier plan to stick to. No one ever considers that piece because the diet industry has conditioned you to just think about rapid weight loss. That's the only thing you value at this point because that's what you've been trained to value. And so you'll say things like, I don't give a shit what I got to do. I just want to lose the weight. And that's what leads you to extreme, unsustainable plans. So my answer to you, P, is how do you stay consistent? Is you learn how to motivate yourself and run your mind better, and you simultaneously create an easier plan to follow. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, well, if I make it easier, I'm not going to lose any weight. Yes, you will lose weight. It might just be a little bit slower, but who gives a shit? Because again, the goal is not to lose weight. The goal is to live at your goal weight. So making it easy, enjoyable, comfortable. Program Yourself Thin, our goal is, how can I live at my goal weight for the rest of my life in the easiest, most enjoyable and comfortable way? That's the question. That's what we spend our time answering. Have you ever asked that question in your life when it comes to weight loss? And I already know the answer is no. I know it for all of you. I've been doing this a long time. I know you never consider, how can I lose weight easily, comfortably, enjoyably? You've never asked that question in your life, most likely. So it's not a surprise that you wouldn't have any answers for how to do that. I, on the other hand, have been obsessed with that question for over 30 years, and I live at my goal weight. I dropped 50 pounds over 30 years ago. I live at my goal weight easily, enjoyably, comfortably. I'm not lying to you. I've got a complete and total system I've generated and created, customized to myself in order to do it. But no one ever asked this question. People just assume you have to do some crazy shit. Keto's crazy. Weight Watchers is crazy. Counting your calories is crazy. Intermittent fasting is crazy for most people. All this shit is crazy for most people because it's weird. It's completely different than how you normally live. So you can do it for a little while and then you ultimately reject it. So again, the answer is both things. Get more motivated, learn how to run your brain better, and come up with an easier system. That's what we do in Program Yourself Then. Again, when I show you this is the goal weight blueprint, right? So this is really the roadmap, the nuts and bolts, specific strategies and roadmap for you to follow to get to your goal weight. And again, we go through mindset, lifestyle, and eating, but it's laid down into pieces. You don't have to do it all at once. You can start to strategically focus on one thing at a time so it's comfortable. Got some extra energy and time? Fine, focus on 2 or 3 things. But it is built to be able to follow comfortably, easily, enjoyably, when you feel like shit, when you're stressed, when you're fighting with your partner. You know what I mean? Like it's built to be able to follow it then. Now, again, there's times in life when everything starts going better and you can do more. Great, you can add more. That's why we follow the all or something methodology, not the all or nothing methodology. So, hope that makes sense. That's a great question. He says, mindset. How do I change my mindset? I mean, changing your mindset is really no different than learning anything else, right? So let's just say, for example, you want to learn how to play piano. Well, you know, again, to become a piano player, it's a combination of 2 things. You're shifting your mindset, you're shifting your strategies, right? You're developing skills is what we would call them with piano, probably more accurately. But your mindset's always changing too, because before you even sit in front of a piano, you got to have some interest in it. I'll show you what I mean, right? So we'll go through mindset and Program Yourself. Then we split up into 6 categories. So the first thing is, let's just say you want to play the piano. Well, the first thing is you need to get motivated, right? If you don't give a shit about the piano, you're never going to take the energy or action to go learn it. So the first thing is you need to be motivated to play the piano. That's the first part. Next thing is you need to start shifting your self-image. If you've never played the piano, you define yourself as not a piano player. So you need to start opening the door to the idea that I could become a piano player. I'm a practicing piano player, right? That's the self-image piece. The next one is habits. So if you want to play the piano, when are you going to practice it? Right? Let's pick some times during the day or during the week where it'd be easy for you to play each and every day or whenever you choose to do it, right? So habits, and then know how to install them too. Next thing is emotions, right? How are you going to deal with the emotions of learning piano? Because learning anything is frustrating. So how are you going to deal with the frustration that comes when you're learning a song and you're annoyed that it feels like you're never going to get it? This is taking too long. I'm never going to learn this. How do you deal with that? Right? That's how you shift your mindset with a piano. Next thing is thinking. What are you going to say to yourself when you hit those road bumps, when you hit those difficult times? What are you going to say to yourself to encourage yourself to keep going? And then finally, maintenance. Speaking of keep going, how are you going to deal with times of stress, times when all of a sudden bombs go off in your life and you're not able to practice as much or when you used to? How are you going to deal with that? Right? So I put it in a different context just for you to see it differently, but it's the exact same thing with weight. And so that's how you change your mindset, in my opinion, right? That's my definition of mindset. And this is a one and only Jim special because I've never seen anyone define mindset this way. So this is something I've come up with, you know, again, after 30 years of obsessing over this stuff. These are the 6 components of mindset that I believe are crucial. And that's what we go through in the book in detail, answering these questions. So you have them. So that's the breakdown of how you change your mindset. There's obviously more to it, but that's kind of the starting point to try to understand it. So if you all have questions, feel free to ask them. TikTok, sometimes I miss your questions because the questions stack up with all the other comments and it all globs together. So feel free to ask them though. Lorraine says, love how straight talking you are. I appreciate it. Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Again, I will say I'm kind of a straight talker. Yeah, I would say I have a very strong bullshit detector, and I make an oath to come on here and not give you any bullshit, not to bullshit you all. I think the weight loss industry is almost 100% bullshit. I genuinely think that way because listen, the diet industry is just a branch of the food processing industry. Weight Watchers was owned by Heinz. Jenny Craig was owned by Nestle. Atkins Food Products owned by the same company owns Auntie Anne's Pretzels and Cinnabon. Slim Fast owned by the same company owns Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream. These companies do not want you to lose weight, stop eating their products, and eat healthy and be thin, healthy, and happy for the rest of your life. So what they've done is they've poured rocks into our head for the last 30 years, 50 years, 100 years with dieting. And we've never gotten a real clear conceptual idea of how to manage your weight. That's what I believe. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think so, because there's not a single diet out there that works long-term. That's a crazy stat to think about. 100 years of dieting, there's not a single diet out of all the diets that have been around that is proven to work long-term better than the rest of them. Maybe Weight Watchers at the top of the list because of the social component to it. And that's the only reason, because Weight Watchers, if you take the social component out of Weight Watchers, it's just shenanigans. It's just marketing over calorie counting. You know what I mean? They just took calories and counted points and make it fun. So it's not much of a strategy. The social thing is actually valuable. That's been proven. But anyways, outside of that, there literally none of the diets stand up. None of them. Now, listen, you can always lose weight with them. I'm not saying you can't lose weight with them. Please understand. What I'm saying is that none of those diets have shown to be more effective than the others for sticking with it long term. So that's what I'm obsessed with. Is I don't give a shit about weight loss. To be honest, I don't give a shit if you lose 30 pounds this month. Don't care. I'm concerned with where you're at next year, the year after. And that's what makes Program Yourself Thin so different. Is I started this whole thing when I was 50 pounds heavier and I wanted to lose weight. Thank goodness in my life, hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming fell in my lap. And NLP, neurolinguistic program, is all about role modeling, the psychology of it, the deep psychology. And so I began to find people that had lost weight and kept it off. I always say, again, a real easy hack for that. A lot of them are hanging out the why. And when you begin speaking to people that have genuinely transformed, who have genuinely lost weight and kept it off, it is night and day between talking to them and talking to dieters. And that was not lost on me. I realized it instantly. These people thought about food, themselves, exercising, their health, their happiness. They thought about all this shit totally different. And it was very eye-opening. So, yeah. Melancholy Green, how's it going? Melancholy says, I did not overdo it at lunch last Thursday with the family. I had a little bit of whatever I wanted to enjoy and even had a piece of cake, but didn't emotional or stress eat at all. This is progress. Yeah, great job, Melancholy. Yeah. I've gotten report after report of that in the program. Again, it's very fortunate because, someone was saying that yesterday, like I am addicted to, I am nourished by hearing success stories from my clients. And people listen to the podcast, right? Anyone in the community. I just love it. It's my mission in life is to help as many people as possible live at their goal weight. My motivation is extra deep because for me, this is life and death. My father died at 54 of a heart attack. I was 9 years old. That was the beginning of my arc here. And as I said, it actually started before that with some really kind of crazy stuff. I mean, this is what I was meant to do, but it is just an absolute gift for me to be able to do it. And it was been really fun especially over this last week, hearing all the reports from my clients about how Thanksgiving was amazing. Because it wasn't just that they ate well. What I'm hearing from my clients is not only did they eat well, but they enjoyed their Thanksgiving more than they ever have. And I think that's a very important piece of the puzzle, because I think most people, when they think about weight loss, they instantly go into a place of pain and deprivation and boredom and less than. And so the idea that you would eat well on Thanksgiving feels like you have a worse time. And what I'm trying to share with you is that when you're on the right path, eating better feels better right away. So you're not just eating better to lose weight. That's part of it. Don't get me wrong. These people are all eating to lose weight too. Okay. So that is still a part of it, but they introduce a lot more into it, which is where we in Program Yourself Thin, we take weight loss and wrap it in personal development. So it's not just about eating perfect on Thanksgiving. That's not the goal. The goal is, how can I enjoy Thanksgiving as much as possible? How can I get the most pleasure out of Thanksgiving? That's the question we were asking last week, preparing for Thanksgiving. How can you get the most pleasure out of Thanksgiving? And so these people went in with those strategies because we prepared them, so they went into Thanksgiving, prepared what they were going to do. They kind of rehearsed it. They programmed their mind. They did all this stuff and they were ready for it. So when Thanksgiving came, they were able to thrive. And it's not a mystery. It's not a, a confusing, difficult thing to wrap your head around when you kind of understand it. But it's been great getting those feedbacks. It's always fun to hear. And I'm proud of you, Melancholy, because it's nice. It feels good to eat moderately, folks. That's how you get the most pleasure. I'll just let you know. The way you get the most pleasure out of food is to eat it moderately at your goal weight. That's the high point of how much you can enjoy food. And it's the same truth for Thanksgiving as well. Lori Wright says, I have no thyroid, only on T4 meds. Does thyroid impact weight? What can I do better? Again, listen, there are absolute physical realities that may be impacting your weight. I want to make that crystal clear. We live in a real physical world, right? And so you have thyroid issues. It absolutely could impact your weight. But that being said, I have never seen anything impact weight so much so that you can't influence it. It's not that you couldn't get to your ultimate goal weight, by the way. I want to make clear there's really nothing that's going to prevent you from getting to your ultimate goal weight physically. What happens is that these things happen and they may slow our results down. It may be harder or take us longer to get to the results we want, and then people quit or they give up. Or it may be harder again. You may be on some medicine that makes you really hungry, and so dealing with that's going to take longer than someone who's not dealing with that. But I'm a big believer that regardless of what physical thing you're dealing with enough practice, with the right mindset work and enough time, you can get to your goal. And that goal may change a little bit as you go forward with it. But that's just what I believe, because I never want to believe, and I've never seen evidence that there's some physical thing that can happen that would prevent you from losing weight if you reduced your calories. Thyroid, insulin resistant, Hashimoto's, PCOS, name it. I've never seen anything would prevent. If I put you in gym jail and I control your calories and I dial your calories down by 30, 40% over a month in gym jail, you can have thyroid issues, insulin resistant, you have all sorts of stuff. Most likely to start losing weight. Now, worst case scenario, you don't lose any weight in the first month. But I promise you're going to start losing weight the second month, the third month. I guarantee it. We live in a physical reality, remember? And if you dial the calories down, your weight's going to go down. Now, the big question is when? When's it going to go down? That I can't answer. And which is why I say weight loss is extremely unpredictable and inconsistent in the short term. And it's very consistent and predictable in the long term. And I think you've got to remember that, because when you do have physical issues, there is a chance your results may slow down or be a little slower than the average person's. And that can be a hard thing if you feel unfair. But at the end of the day, you've got to absorb that because that's your situation. And the question becomes, okay, this sucks. I wish I could lose weight as quick as Mary, but I can't. So what am I going to do now? Am I going to quit because I can't lose weight as quickly? Or am I going to start the path now because it's going to take me a little longer and I want to get my results? We all got that choice, no matter what the situation. So that's what I would say, Lori. Melancholy says, I've been working on the mindset that I can eat from what's offered, but I don't have to gorge. It's just another meal. The only thing special is not the quantity, but the experience. Melancholy, nice job. Yeah, I agree with that 1,000%. I think that's a wonderful take on things, and that's what I believe. I truly believe you do not give up any foods. Now, I say that there's, for some people, there's always like something that's just too triggering for them. So sometimes that does exist, but I find the vast majority of people can get so much better at moderating their food intake. And when they say, oh, I can't do it. If I eat one cookie, I eat the whole bag. People will say that. But at the same time, I'll say, well, what have you done to practice moderation? What's been your moderation strategies that you've worked on and developed over the years? And I never hear an answer. So just because you suck at moderation now doesn't mean you can't get better at it. If you never played the piano, I can't play the piano. Yeah, but you can learn. And it's the same thing with moderation. You can absolutely get better at moderating your food intake. And that mindset you have, Melancholy, is a great start to making that happen. So nice job, Melancholy. I'm proud of you making some big steps forward. That's good to hear. That's what I like. And again, it is about just small steps and improvements moving forward. That's another kind of mindset shift, is that we don't need to do, I think most people try and lose weight. If you know baseball at all, most people are trying to win through grand slams and home runs, right? They call that big ball versus small ball. And so, some teams, they are big ball teams, right? And so they really are built around hitting home runs and grand slams and big plays. And then there's a small ball teams, when those teams are built around singles, you know what I mean? And just consistency, small, consistent things. And so when it comes to weight loss, the diet industry has conditioned you to think that you've got to do all this at once. You got to do big, dramatic, crazy things in order to lose the weight. But the real answer to mastering your weight usually comes down to mastering the little things. And the beauty of that approach is that it's way easier. It is way easier to do small things consistently than it is to do giant things perfectly. That's just a mathematical truth. And so the quicker you get onto doing smaller things consistently, the quicker you get sustainable results happening for you. Casey says, weight gain that I kept off for 2 years straight, half of it being back is killing me. Casey, I get that. And when the weight comes back, it's very demoralizing and discouraging. So I understand that. I'm sorry you're going through that. You're in the right place though, because literally at the end of the day, I always say this, but this podcast, more than anything, I do these lives in this podcast legitimately for the people that have lost weight and them are in the process of putting it back on or put it back on. Because to me, it's like, you're my person. You're not afraid to do the work. You're willing to do the work, which sets you apart instantly. And so I take it as my job to help you out here and give you a better path to get the real results you're looking for, which is not weight loss results, but long-term living at your goal weight results. So for you, Casey, the first thing I want to say is, as soon as I hear killing me, I don't like it, because I know that's an emotional state where you're not looking at things calmly and strategically and rationally as you can. And so what I want to do, and I forget now if we've talked about this. I don't know. I forget if you're the one who started a different job and had a different shift schedule and you were doing intermittent fasting and then you started eating. I don't remember if that was you or not, Casey. But regardless, what I would want to know is, if you kept it off for 2 years and then you put it back on, I want to know what shifted there. Did something go on in life? Did something happen that triggered that shift? Because if there was something that happened, then we want to identify it, and then we're going to go to work on fixing it. But a lot of times we just go into freak out mode. If we go into freak out mode, there's no chance you're going to find a solution, because you're just freaking out. You're not paying attention to stuff. So again, get more specific on what happened there. Yeah, Casey says, feels impossible, but I've done it before. Yeah, again, I mean, in a weird way, I know like losing weight and then putting it back on is such a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it can be so discouraging, but on the other hand, you do have the belief and the knowledge that you did it, and you have the knowledge of how you did it. So those are two huge advantages you have. But you've got to learn how to manage that mindset that you have now, because I know this is what I deal with all day long with my clients, is that as soon as the weight starts going up, again, you go into freak out mode, and you can't just calm yourself. That's why we program yourself thin. We look to make, it's really data over drama, right? The reason this book is as big as it is so that when you, all of a sudden your weight starts going up, you can run back to the blueprint and say, whoa, what's going on here? And you say, well, my eating's changed. Oh, so my lifestyle's changed. My habits have changed. Oh, my mind's gotten kind of dark. And this gives you a way, as much as this is a roadmap showing you where to go, simultaneously, it's also a strategy for diagnosing problems. So if all of a sudden your weight starts going up, well, your weight's going up because you start eating more. When did you start eating more? How did you start eating more? Why did you start eating more? We want to start diagnosing that, because how are we going to fix the problem if we don't really know what the problem is? And dieting, you never do this, because dieting is very black or white, all or nothing. You're either doing it all perfectly or you're not doing it at all. And there's no middle ground. And I think life's lived in that middle ground, and so again, this gives us the ability to break down something that's big and vague. Oh my God, I'm dying here. I'm killing. I can't believe I'm putting this weight back. I'm freaking out, to saying, okay, wait a second. What's going on here? Let me look at what's happening calmly, rationally. Let me understand it. And the more you understand it, I mean, the solutions just start to present themselves to you when you understand what the problem is. But again, and Casey, by the way, it may have been you. Please let me know if it was you that I talked to before, that shifted the jobs, and you were doing fasting and then you shifted jobs and you got off that. Is that you? Because let me know if it is, because I got something to say about that. Nara Escobar says, I've already did the positioning yourself as a person on your goal weight method, but it hasn't worked. I already did the positioning yourself as a person on your goal weight method, but it hasn't worked. That's interesting. You know what I mean? But when something doesn't work, be like, well, I tried to play the piano, but it doesn't work to play the piano. Right. Well, always that's not true. So be careful if it's the method that didn't work or you that didn't work it right. That's a very important distinction to make, because when we say, oh, that method doesn't work, it may not work for you too. Right. Certainly program yourself that is not for everyone at all. Okay. So I will be crystal clear about that. That being said, I think a lot of times people quit and blame the thing a lot earlier than they should. And they should look at how they were practicing the method. And chances are most likely that I already did the position. Like, again, because you're saying it like I already did that. Oh, I already programmed my mind and put myself as a thin person. It didn't work. And to that, I say, well, tell me what you did. How did you program yourself? And instantly will reveal all the flaws that no, you didn't do it right. You thought you did it right. You thought you were doing it right, but you weren't. And that's 99% percentage of true. Now I say that again, I'm not saying that out of nowhere. I've been doing this for a long time and I've heard a lot of people say this doesn't work. And as we dive into it, it turns out they weren't doing it right. So I would say, Nara Escobar, that's probably the truth here, that you probably have. I would not want to be so firmly planted in the idea that I did all this. I programmed my mind completely. I positioned myself as a thin, healthy person. It didn't work. I would be very hesitant to frame it that way. And I would say, oh, I got stuck on this, or I got stuck on this, or whatever. Because the chances that you did it right are almost nil. Anyways, Casey says, fasting was miserable, but I rather than like feeling that than this in my body. That's not true, Casey. People say this too, right? Casey just said fasting was miserable, but I'd rather feel that than feel this in my body. That's not true, or you would be doing it. That's the lie dieters always tell themselves. That's right. That's right in the ballpark of, I know what to do. I just need to get myself to do it. Not true. If you've been struggling with your weight, you've probably been saying to yourself the entire time, I know what to do, and I just need to get myself to do it. That's not a true statement, and it's not true that you would enjoy the fasting feeling more than the being overweight feeling. If that was true, then you would not be gaining weight. You would be doing the fasting thing. That's just not a true statement. So again, I take the no bullshit oath, and it applies to everyone, but that's not true, Casey. That's an emotional statement that's not accurate. But it can mislead you, and it's really, really tricky that way. What's up, Green Eye Blonde? I really enjoy your videos. They're very informative and inspiring. Thank you. Yes, that's what they're there for. So I'm glad you're using them. Glad you're enjoying them. All right. Casey says, yep, I'm the definition of all or nothing. If I'm not perfect, I quit. And so, well, I don't care, but I do. Yeah. All right, Casey, that was me who changed jobs. Okay, that's what I thought. All right. So here is the other thing I was going to tell you is that this is what I mean, Casey, because we've talked about this now. Okay. And so the big issue was that you were intermittent fasting in a different job with a different schedule and a different reality. You switched jobs. And so now you have a different schedule, and that schedule didn't coincide with your intermittent fasting. See, this is a really important point. So you were intermittent fasting for 2 years in your previous job. And in that 2 years, you learned how to intermittent fast in that schedule with that job. And the big mistake a lot of dieters make is they think, well, once I'm good at intermittent fasting, I'll get a new job and I'll just keep intermittent fasting. But it's now a completely different situation you're in. So it's like you have to basically, I know you're going to like hearing this, but you would basically have to relearn how to intermittent fast with this new schedule. And you didn't approach it that way. You just assumed that what you did in this job, you'd be able to do in this job. And that didn't turn out to be true. Now, you still have a lot of skills and abilities and understanding and knowledge and habits of how to do it, but you've got to update them for this new job. Now, here's the important thing. We have talked about this before. And you come in today and it's kind of like, I don't know what's going on. I put all this weight on. I was losing weight. And then all of a sudden I'm putting it on. It's killing me. And you went back into emotion mode where there's no answer. There's no solutions. There's nothing feels like it's going to get better. And you get lost in that. Even though we've talked about this. Now, again, I'm not judging. I'm not blaming you, because this is what I work with my clients. The one thing I hear from my clients over and over again that I coach is, Jesus, Jim, we talk about the same thing every week. So reinforcement is just so important with change. So I'm not picking on you, Casey. I'm just pointing out how quickly we can forget, how quickly we can get into a mood and totally forget about stuff. We totally get into a mood. It's killing me. I hate this. I can't stand this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm putting the weight on. And we can get lost in that for years. So it's your job to reground yourself and say, okay, wait a second. Let me look at this with clearer eyes, calmer eyes. Right. I switched jobs and I need to upgrade my strategy now for this new job. And we'll talk about intermittent fasting because, again, I can hear in your comments the big issue with intermittent fasting, which is very common to a lot of people, by the way. Again, I'm not for or against intermittent fasting because my golden rule is there's no right or wrong. There's only what works for people. That being said, for most people, intermittent fasting is not a good strategy. It doesn't work. You get so stressed fasting, especially the last 2 hours of it, that by the time you start eating, you're overeating. And it's just a very stressful way to live. And for a lot of people, it's a great way to train yourself to become a binge eater. You get yourself so hungry and then you open the gates and then you overeat. So more often than not, I find intermittent fasting to be an ineffective strategy for people. And I don't think it's a bad strategy. I love intermittent fasting. I use what I call nighttime fasting. I don't eat for 12, 13 hours a day, typically. But I got to that point naturally, gradually. And I think when it comes to intermittent fasting, most people just dive into it and they expect it's got to be difficult and hard. And so I think for you, Casey, what happened is you kind of figured it out with your old job. This new job shake things up, and now it's not working the same way. And so what I would want to do is I can hear when you were saying it that intermittent fasting is miserable for you. You're getting too hungry. And so what I would want to do is get rid of the idea of intermittent fasting or shrink intermittent fasting down to 10, 12 hours. There's nothing magical about that last 2 fucking hours. I hate intermittent fasting as a diet. I think it's wonderful to give your body a break from eating for a little while. So that part of it, I absolutely love. And I hate the diet version of intermittent fasting where they have to like make it so specific and they almost have to trademark it so they can sell it. And so they have to hype up the 16 hours and how all this magical shit happens the last 2 hours of the 16 hours. It's bullshit. It's just a way to reduce calorie consumption on average. And so you can absolutely eat. You could not eat for 12 hours, eat the other 12 hours and still lose weight. I promise you, folks. And for a lot of people, that's going to be the strategy. I will tell you the number one thing, because that's one of the main people I get is people coming, I was doing intermittent fasting. That's one of the top things people have tried. And one of the number one strategies previous intermittent fasters will use to get back on track and find a real plan for them is to not try and fast for 16 hours, do 10 or 12 hours, and then eat something that's nourishing and healthy. And let's retweak what you're doing after that. Nothing happens magical in those last 2 hours. I'm here to tell you, except you get extra hungry. Casey says your memory is unreal. It is unreal. I'm not going to lie. I would say I am like, my kid was watching Rain Man. I'm like Rain Man when it comes to coaching. True story. I really am. I have it surprises me. It's not even, you know what I feel like? You ever hear like musicians talk about like some big hit song they had and like, I don't know where it came from. It just kind of, that's what I feel like. I don't know how I remember this shit. I just do. Anyways, but so, yeah. Casey says intermittent fasting easy part was the long fast. I couldn't keep up and kept trying to do it. Okay, well, Casey, there you go, though. See, now you're back in logical mode, and now you can look at what happened, what worked, what stopped working, and you can look at it rationally. And now you can start to look at where the problem was, acknowledge it, accept it, and work on finding a solution for you. That's all the wisdom you've got now. See, that's the big secret. If you've lost weight and you're starting to put it on or you've put it on, I know it hurts. I get that. But on the bright side, you've got so much gold in your mind and body now that you can utilize. You've got so much wisdom. You've got so many beliefs that are now there that you can really utilize to really catapult yourself in the direction you want. But again, dieting never teaches you how to use that. So again, Casey, I suggest to you, take a step back, relax, calm down, become rational, look at what happened and start to figure out how you can make it work better for you in your new situation. If the long fast is miserable, stop doing that. Get more flexible in your thinking. You do not need a long fast to lose weight, folks. I promise you, especially if it's making you miserable. It's not even helping you if it's making you miserable. Jackie says, how can I get your program? And is it good for UK dieting all my life, but never consistent? Yeah, I would say probably it's probably tied, but I would say after USA, most of my clients come from Canada and the UK. And maybe Australia, but I would say UK and Canada are the top two after America. So it absolutely works for people in the UK. And it's amazing how similar our eating issues are in America and UK. Very interesting. But yes, it absolutely works. But what I would suggest is to Jackie is to go, if you're on TikTok, click the link or click my bio, the picture up at the top left there, the picture of me, click that. It'll bring you to my bio, click the link in my bio and go get the free hypnosis session I made for you. It's free. You can listen to it right away. And I also made you a training. Watch the training. It'll explain this approach. It'll talk about the program. And if it's the right fit for you, you can get it that way is the way I would suggest. Casey says, I don't know why I'm afraid to try to eat something small during the day. Yeah, Casey says, I lost 5 pounds the other day by just eating a bit less and not focusing on trying to fast all day. Casey, I'm so glad this came up today because again, I don't even call it tough love. Like it's not tough love. It's just, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm just trying to be as honest as I can. I find that works best. But Casey, now I'm super proud of you because you see what I mean? Like, and this is because this was so great. I'm really happy you shared this with me today, because I think it really illustrates the point that so often the answers are already in you, folks. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you got to learn other stuff outside of yourself. Okay. But I'm a big believer that most of the answers are inside of you, that you don't need more diet knowledge or more nutrition knowledge, that if you could learn how to manage your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors more effectively, then you've got pretty much everything you need inside of you to succeed. And Casey just kind of proved that. Okay. So once you calm down, Casey, and you look at the thing rationally, calmly, you're able to kind of see what the problem is. And then instantly your brain went right to a great solution. And now I get it too, though. Like, oh, I'm afraid to try to eat something small during the day. I get that. That happens to a lot of people that do extreme things. And intermittent fasting is an extreme thing for a lot of people. And what happens is you get so worked up about it that the idea of doing it differently feels terrifying. But what you're doing isn't working at all right now, Casey. Okay. So I think you've got the answer right in front of you. I think it's to start getting good. It's starting to get comfortable. You can acknowledge the fear. I think that's legitimate. Okay. I'm not saying you're stupid for thinking it's afraid. I think we honor that fear. That's what you're feeling. We honor that feeling. I feel afraid to eat something small, instead of just fasting completely. We acknowledge that and we look at it and we say, okay. And we compare both sides. I could sit here and feel like I can't eat anything. How's that experience? What are those results? And let me compare that against eating something small moderately. And then the voice goes, yeah, but if you eat something small moderately, you're going to eat everything. Well, let's work on that. Because this other thing of not eating anything isn't working for us. And again, you have to make the distinction. What's working for us? See, that's why the dieting screws us up, because you start to evaluate what's working for me based on just the weight loss. But that's not enough, because if you do something that's miserable and uncomfortable for you and you lose a lot of weight, it's not successful because you're not going to stick with it. So the most important piece of the weight loss is that it's relatively comfortable and easy for you, because that sets you up to do it long-term and get long-term results. So Casey, I'm really happy for you because you've got a lot of good stuff. That's why I told you, you don't keep weight off for 2 years without having a lot of skills and great qualities already in you, right? And very quickly, you just found a wonderful potential solution there. So I would double down on that and I would get better at it. I would acknowledge the fear and I would work forward with what you just said. Yeah, Casey says, I tried long fast again. I gained it all back. Again, this is what happens with dieters, because diets are very rigid, folks. This is exactly what happens. This is why 95% of dieters put the weight back on, because the diets are so rigid. They don't have the flexibility necessary to interact with life, real life. And so, again, you've got this idea in your mind. Well, I lost weight long fasting. I got a long fast. I got a long fast. I got a long fast. You get a whole new job, totally different situation. I got a long fast. I got a long fast. No, you don't. Okay. You needed get more flexible, adjust what you've been doing to your new reality. And one of the clear things to remind yourself of: long fast work here, long fast don't work here anymore. And that's okay. Okay. And so now evolve, create yourself a better strategy for the situation you find yourself in now. All right. Yeah. Casey says, thank you. I feel like I should have paid for that advice. That's awesome. Yeah. Casey, watching you for like 2 years, I genuinely learned a lot. Slowly but surely, I'm telling myself this isn't sustainable. Yeah. I get it, Casey. And again, that makes me so happy. I'm going to screenshot that actually. I think that's, that really makes me so happy, because that's my goal here, folks. It's $25,000 to work with me privately. I shit you not, and so why do you do it here for free every day? Because this is my mission in life. And my goal is literally to be here and to be able to support you as much as if you were paying me $25,000. That is 100% my goal. All right. And so that makes me really happy, Case, that you say that. And I hope this helps you out. That's literally why I'm here, folks. I'm here to help you as much as I possibly can, as much as I would help my private clients. I promise you, this is the kind of the motivation I have for this. Moira says, I went away for the weekend and wasn't remotely tempted to eat my usual unhealthy food. All I could get was nothing tastes as good as thin and healthy feels. Moira, nice. That's one of our core mantras in the program. And again, this is the power of mantras. The right mantras is when we're thinking the right stuff, we tend to act differently. So you go into situations thinking nothing tastes as good as thin and healthy feels, and you're connected to that and you're feeling it. Yeah, you're going to eat differently naturally, automatically. That's the key thing I'm saying. Diets are all about losing weight and getting to your goal weight. Program yourself then is about living at your goal weight for the rest of your life in the easiest, most enjoyable way possible. So I know that's a big goal. I don't shy away from that, but again, when you know how to run your mind and you have a good strategy and system to make it happen, It's not as crazy sounding as it may seem initially. And Moira, you just kind of proved how that can happen. Once you put new ideas in your mind, they crowd out the bad ones. You start to act differently. Great job, Moira. Keep it up. And if you love that session, you're going to love the rest of them coming up. That's our first, I would say that's the core mantra of the program. But again, there's a lot of them coming your way. 7 more coming your way. So nice job, Moira. Sandra says, thank you so much. You have been a great help for me. Well, you're welcome, Sandra. I'm so happy to do that. This is what I do. And again, yeah, listen, don't feel bad for me. I'm paid in money too. I love getting paid in money too. I am a businessman. However, at the end of the day, the real payment that I love and cherish the most really is when I'm genuinely able to help good people move forward. And I guess, especially people that are committed and hardworking, nothing makes me happier than being able to help them take big steps forward. Because most of the time what I've seen, again, my clients are almost all overthinkers on the perfectionist scale, overachievers. Typically they're always taking information, always doing stuff. And it's not that they won't do the work. It's just, they don't know what work to do, because the diet industry never talks to you about mindset. It never talks about living at your goal weight. And so, it's really rarely a question of how smart you are, or what ability you have. It's really more the fact that you've never learned any of this information. And so you can't use it, So anyways, Shell Yip says, you're helping me massively, upping the fiber each meal, concentrating on what I'm eating. That's super. Yeah. And again, and some of the information I want to give you is just straight up strategy. I'm not trying to gatekeep great strategy. I just, I talk more often about the mindset piece, because everyone's out there talking about what to eat and all the rest of it, which is an important piece of it. Obviously you have to have some sense of what to eat and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to your mindset. So yeah, it's super great though that, the more fiber thing as a strategy, food strategy, I put at the very top of the list, top 3, no doubt about it. Eating more whole natural foods, which gives you more fiber into your body is probably the foundational piece of an eating strategy in my world, in my mind. Yeah. And Shell says, realizing it's for life, slow and steady is working. Yeah, that's so great. Shell Yip. I don't know if it's Chell or Shell. I don't know how you pronounce that. But yeah, and then what you say is really important, right? Realizing it's for life. Again, such an enormous mindset shift to realize this is for the rest of your life, because dieting, when it's dieting, you think of it as a temporary thing, and that's what the diet industry has conditioned you to do, is to subconsciously think about your weight loss like it's a sprint, right? You're going to do it for however long until I lose the weight. And subconsciously, that's how you think about it. But the reality is, and I'll ask it through this question, how long would you like to live at your goal weight? How long you want to keep the weight off for? Right now, I can hear you saying forever, right? So this is not a sprint. It's a forever marathon. And once you get over the sadness that may create in you, you just acknowledge that's the truth, because I want to live at my goal weight forever. So yes, I want this to be a forever marathon. And that shift from it's a sprint to a marathon, it's temporary to forever, is again, fundamentally mindset wise crucial, because that whichever one you're living in is going to dictate the methods you use. And if you just think of this as a temporary thing to lose weight, you're way more likely to choose some extreme plan, because you're like, oh, it's just temporary. I can do anything for a little while, and that's what sets you up for failure. That's why dieters, they always go through that loop. You do the extreme crazy thing for a little while, then you go back to normal. Put the weight back on, or didn't lose any weight anyways. Do the extreme crazy thing, you got upset, go back to normal. And it just keeps cycling. And so what we want to do is recognize that's how it always goes. And so the real solution to figuring that out is get off that wheel and just start walking consistently forward. And that's the path to success. And of course, you want to do that for the rest of your life. So when you do that, pay attention to it. That's how you get the good results. Karen says, thank you so much. You're welcome, Karen. Elizabeth says, I've lost 30 pounds. My friends say they can tell, but I can't see the change. Advice. Yeah, great comment, question. I really appreciate you saying that, because that's another reality of this process. Again, we go back to the stat that really keeps me up at night, that 95% of dieters that lose weight put the weight back on. And, a big part of that is that when you lose weight, like before you lose weight, you really think about getting to your goal weight and losing weight as being absolutely life-changing. The diet industry has done this to you. You start to think of, if I lose the weight, everything's going to be better. People are going to love me. I'm going to make more money at work. Everything's going to be better. And the reality is that that's not what happens. It's awesome for a lot of reasons, but it's almost never as good as you think it's going to be. And a bit of that's dopamine based. We're not going to get into all that, but that's a big piece of it. So, and on top of that, we all have a negativity bias where we notice the negative stuff more than the positive stuff. So it is pretty much a guarantee. You would be an outlier if this wasn't true for you, but pretty much guaranteed that as you lose weight, you will not feel as great about it as you thought you were going to. You won't notice it as much, whatever. And so even if you lose 30 pounds, you might not feel as great as you thought you would think you were going to feel at the 30 pounds. So how do you deal with that? Right? I can't see the change. Now it's very interesting, right? In that comment is really the main issue. Dieting has conditioned us to think about weight loss primarily as a visual thing, right? Every single diet ad you've seen in your life, and you've seen tens of millions of them, is a before and after picture. And what that does to your subconscious mind, it conditions you to think about weight loss as a visual thing, something aesthetic, something you can see. And this is where the problem starts. And this is where the problem's starting for you, Elizabeth, because your primary value that you're looking to get from the weight loss is how you look. I don't see the change. Fair enough. But what I would ask you is, do you feel the change? And not just do you feel lighter and are you moving and stronger and all the rest of it. I'm talking about, do you think more positive thoughts? Do you feel more proud of yourself? Do you feel more positive feelings? Do you have more energy? Do you feel lighter? Do you sleep any better 30 pounds lighter? Do you feel different as a person? Do you feel like a more successful version of yourself having lost 30 pounds? And this is where I would focus, because you have not been focusing here. And I bet there's a lot of gold there. And that will help you start to internalize and appreciate the changes you've made so far. And everyone has to do this, because everyone pretty much in America anyways, when they think about when their weight loss is happening, almost never do they feel as good as they think they feel, because no matter what, you can get to your goal weight, folks, and there's still, you're not going to be perfect. I tell you the story. I remember a lady I certified to be a Program Yourself Thin coach. She was a competitive bodybuilder. And I said, what was it like the second before you walked on that stage? Because, at that point for 6 months, they've been aiming for that moment. And it's been years and years of training, but then they specifically dial into it 6 months ahead of time. That's what's it like that second, that moment. And she goes, I was just noticing more flaws. They're smaller flaws, but they feel just as big to me. So reality is relative. And again, you need to, Elizabeth, I would suggest you spend a little bit of time and think about all the other benefits you've gotten out of this 30-pound weight loss, the subtle ones that you've kind of not been paying attention to or been ignoring. And that's what I would suggest. Coretta says, how can I lose 15 pounds by Christmas? Wrong place, Coretta. I mean, how could you lose 15 pounds by Christmas? Here you go. Now you got a pen and paper? Stop eating and don't drink anything. And if you're really serious, start working out a real lot. There you go. You're 15 pounds lighter by Christmas for one day, and then you can start putting the weight back on. Patty Jackson says, I found that I usually only lose about a pound a month, but I lost 11 pounds this year and expect to lose 12 pounds next year. That's the comment of the day. That makes me so happy, Patty. I just want to cry. I love that so much, so much. That is the mindset in a nutshell. You have articulated the mindset I'm trying to articulate in a couple words there. Thank you so much. That's the secret to success right there. That is the secret. I found that I usually only lose about a pound a month, but I lost 11 pounds this year and I expect to lose 12 pounds next year. I'm going to screenshot this. I'm going to get a needle point. I'm going to get a needle point made and designed with that on there, Patty. That's the best thing I've read all week. That is so awesome. You hear that mindset? Because a lot of you are going to say, pound a month, fuck that. That's not fast enough. Forget it. But that is in a nutshell. That's right there. That's the secret to success right there in a nutshell. 11 pounds this year, 12 more pounds next year. I don't know how far away it is till your goal weight, but that's how you're going to get there and stay there. Wonderful job, Patty. Wonderful, wonderful job. Proud of you. I'm proud of you for the success of losing weight, but I'm more proud of you for the mindset shift. Very good. And it says, what if I love the feeling of fasting and want to do it for the rest of my life, like every month? Also, I like liquid diets and like to take a break from food and also want to do throughout my whole life. What would you recommend? Well, I mean, if you love fasting, fast. Again, program yourself thin. The golden rule is there's no right or wrong. There's only what works for you. So I'm going to assume, Anna, well, I'm not going to assume anything because you know what they say about that, but um, I don't know what your weight situation is. You know, are you at your goal weight? That'd be my first question. Because if you're at your goal weight and you love what you're doing to be at your goal weight, then I would say great. You hit the you're done. You know what I mean? I'm at my goal weight. I've been here for a while and I love how I do it. I'm good. I got to still manage it and all the rest of it, but I'm good. I've done the work, you know? And so if you are Anna, not yet. Okay. Okay. Well, okay. So let me know where you're at though, Anna. Are you actively moving towards your goal weight? How long you've been fasting, doing all this stuff that you love? That's the big question. That gives it the context. Trying to lose weight. Okay. Well, now unfortunately things get a little more complicated. Why? Well, what if I love the feeling of fasting? Well, if you love the feeling of, oh, okay. Well, you lost 20 pounds. All right. Well, not, you're taking me on a wild ride here, Anna. Okay. So if I got this right, you're actively in the process of losing weight. You've lost 20 pounds so far. You've done it through this fasting. Oh, recently this month. Oh, I got you. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you love the feeling of fasting as much as you love the feeling of rapid weight loss. And so I don't know if you really love the feeling of fasting. Maybe you do. And if you do, great. You figured it out. But you won't know that until, 6 months from now, a year from now, unfortunately, you know? So, if you love it, knock yourself out because, okay, here's what I'm trying to say. And this is why let me back it up. I love fasting. People tell me that, I love fasting, but I got to get myself to do it more. Well, if you can't get yourself to do it, you don't love it. Right. Because is it hard? Or would you ever ask, hey, Jim, how do I get myself to eat more donuts and cookies? You know what I mean? No one ever asked that question. So things that you love to do are easy to do. Yeah. Okay. I do. I never thought I'd love the clarity of mind. I get it. I get it. But you're just in the testing phases. I mean, so it sounds to me like you've been doing this for a month or so. You've been on a crash diet and you say, well, but I also love the feeling of being light, all the rest of it. But you don't even know at this point. Don't take this as negative either, by the way. Okay. Please understand that you've got to have the ability to look at this from all sides if you're serious about living at your goal weight. Right. If you just want to lose a bunch of weight, this isn't even the place to be anyways, because right now you're just in a state of euphoria. You're in a state of euphoria. So you don't know what there's the euphoria of losing weight and what's the euphoria of having a clear mind and an empty body. You really can't tell that distinction yet. That's just the truth. And that's why I say you won't really know how you feel about fasting until, I don't know how much weight you want to lose, but you won't really know how you feel about fasting until you get to your goal weight and then you've been there for a number of months. Then you'll start to get an idea. Because right now, I say this every day, that most dieters trade the pleasure and excitement of the food for the pleasure and excitement of the weight loss. And so right now, Anna, you've traded the pleasure and excitement of the food for the pleasure and excitement of losing 20 pounds in a month. Do you see what I'm saying? Great. That's fine. You know what I mean? That's a natural part of this, but we want to recognize it because it has it tricks our mind, and so we can start to think that, oh my God, I love this fasting. Well, you love losing weight fast. You know what I mean? That part I know for a fact. And so again, until you get to your goal weight, you won't really know how you feel about fasting. However, if you love fasting and you love liquid diets and love all the rest of this stuff, who am I to tell you to do? You know what I mean? I'm not a nutritionist. So as long as you feel good, you're energized, you're healthy, you're happy, and this works for you, then to me, that there you go. Everyone gets to decide what they're going to weigh and how they're going to do it. And so if that really works for you, cool. But again, just take what I was saying into account. It doesn't matter right now. Keep riding it out. But again, you'll really start to, you won't even be able to really even know how you feel about fasting until you start to approach your goal weight. And then it's going to take months after that. Because once the weight loss stops, that's when the rubber hits the road, folks, right? I mean, this is why 95% of dieters lose weight with the weight back on, in my opinion, primarily is because, again, most people trade the excitement and the pleasure of the food for the excitement and pleasure of the weight loss coming down. But at some point, the weight loss stops going down. And now the question becomes, where are you going to get your pleasure and excitement from? Now, I know what most people say is, well, I'm going to get the pleasure and excitement from being thin, Jim. Yeah, but that doesn't work because you have a hedonic system that normalizes to that. And so we need to have things to look forward to. Food is the thing to look forward to. Weight loss is the thing to look forward to. Once you're at your goal weight, weight loss isn't anything to look forward to. And being at your goal weight isn't really anything to look forward to. Do you understand that? Like, I'm at my goal weight. I don't look forward to being at my goal weight next week. I don't look forward to being at my goal weight next month. I just normalized to this. Now, I look forward to having energy, being clear-headed, having, focus and my mind working right and following my plan and eating the way I eat and being energized. I got all that and I'm excited to experience that. But my weight's going to be the same thing. It just kind of just becomes like the wallpaper, Yeah. And it says, thank you for so much golden advice. You are absolutely amazing. Well, thank you. And I appreciate you saying that. And again, good luck, and I don't want to say good luck. I hate that term. Pay attention, think about what I said here and then keep doing what you're doing, but just pay attention to what you're doing. Because again, it's not about how quickly you can lose weight. It's not about how much you can fast to lose weight. Ultimately, it's going to be about what can I sustain in order to live at my goal weight, And so keep that in mind while you're moving towards it. All right. And you'll be better off. Vicky says, thank you, Jim. Celebrating to be off that hamster wheel, that diet mentality into nothing forever. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. To be all or something. And that's what we are in Program Yourself Thin, is all or something, because it's a much better strategy for managing weight than all or nothing. For sure. Sandra says, you make so much sense. Thank you. That's one of my favorite things to hear as well, is I like to bring some sense in a world, the weight loss world, is just constant tipsy topsy turvy bullshit, so it's so disorienting, and you feel that in your sense of confusion, you know what I mean? And probably your apathy, because again, you've been conditioned your whole life. Dieting is a psychological operation to make you confused and stuck, because dieting is a branch of the food processing company. So their goal and intention is not to help you lose weight and live at your goal weight. It's to fill your head with rocks, take some of your money along the way, and get you going back to being addicted to the foods that got you in the problem in the first place. And that's why you've been in the same cycle for probably decades, So, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate all the comments and questions. What a day. Really some good ones today. I really enjoyed that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you're not in my world, get in my world. Yes, you get the free hypnosis session right away. I made a video training for you, 3 steps to master your weight. All of that's free. I got a report coming for you this week. It's almost done. I got my first book is going to be released January 1st. I'm going to give it to you for free for the first 5 days of January. So if you're on my email list, I will remind you of that. Make sure you get it. You're going to want it. It's really good. I got the final draft today. It's about to be a finished thing. Very exciting for me. I can't wait. But you're going to want this book. If you give a shit about your weight at all, you're going to want this book. It's a good one. So make sure you get on my list. I will let you know about that. And I'm here every Monday through Friday, usually around noon Eastern, to answer your questions. As Casey said today, I feel like I should have paid you for this advice. That is my goal. I'm giving you the same advice I give my $25,000 clients. I am here as part of a mission to help as many people live at their goal weight as possible. So get on here, ask your questions. I will do anything I can to help you out for free. And if you like listening to this and you can't make the lives, then you can go to any podcast platform and search Program Yourself Thin, and it'll pop up and you can listen to this anytime you like. I do these every day. Holy crap. If we're not up to 658 episodes, holy shit. Time passes. See, 1 episode a day. They all stack up though eventually. So anyways, you can listen to the Program Yourself Thin podcast anytime you like. Go search for that, and have a super day, and we will talk soon. Bye, everyone.